So how do you break into Hollywood? On the podcast, Acting Like an Actor, we chat with actors and creatives about how they broke into the business, the day-to-day reality of it, and how they stay sane in a crazy business. They know what they're doing, or are they just acting like they do? On this week's episode, we have actor, writer, and gym owner Kasey Esser, labeled the breakout star of the vertical soap opera industry by Rolling Stones. You may know him from shows like Fated to My Forbidden Alpha, Goodbye My CEO, Hollywood Staged Romance, Undercover Heiress, and many more. He also owns 2 gyms in LA and just released a book. We chat about how he balances it all, his involvement on the vertical shows and the opportunities they have opened for him, as well as the importance of having a business mindset as an actor. If you struggle with the business side of things as an actor, this episode is for you. If you suck at managing your time, this episode is for you. If you're curious about those vertical shows, this episode is for you. If you're a Kasey Esser fan, shout out to you Midwest moms, this episode is for you.
Are you rich?
Are you famous?
What have you been on?
I don't really recognize you, and neither does my mom.
Can you laugh?
Can you cry on command?
I mean, you said you were an actor, man.
What's your backup plan? Is it shattered?
Dude, I'm just acting like an actor.
Have you thought about moving to the other side of the camera at all for these verticals, or no? Is that something that interests you, or no? No, not at all.
Not at all. I watched the director and the DP and everything, and I'm like, no.
Not my.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell me where to go. I'll give you what you need. But whenever I see what they're talking about, I get really overwhelmed. So I prefer to just be on the camera.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get that. So we always start with irritating icebreaker on Acting Like an Actor. So I have an irritating icebreaker for you, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure we have a lot of Kasey Esser fans out there probably watching this. But what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given, Kasey?
The one that I keep coming back to, and I'll ramble on this for a bit, is, and this is especially true for actors, because we do get, a lot of criticism for various things or rejection or whatever.
Yeah.
But you'll never be criticized by someone that's doing the same or less. You'll never get criticized by someone doing more than you. Mm. And those are the people that you want to be around and be associated with. The people that criticize in any field are below or at your level because they're insecure about maybe where they're at, and they want to be where you're at, and they want to keep you at a certain level. Yeah. So I always come back to that because, you do hear certain things or whatever. And I always just remind myself, like, well, the people who really matter aren't being critical or doing anything because they're working. They're doing more. Why would they? If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Kasey, I want to open a gym," I say, "Great, do it," because I've already done it. So why would I have anything negative to say about that?
Right.
Or if someone wants to go into acting, amazing, do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear people that have already achieved and been successful being critical of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And the other one related to that is, and this is more of a cliche thing, but do try to be the least smartest person in the room. So I try to, really, I would say my friend circle and people that I speak with is very small for that reason, because I really, really work hard to keep myself focused and sort of in a tunnel. Because there's so much that you can get easily distracted by. And I would say they're all rushing into my head now. The other thing that was told to me at the beginning of my acting career, which I'm acting like was a long time ago, it wasn't, was never let someone try to contort you into something that you're not. Because you go to an agent, you go to a manager, you go to anyone, they will try to tell you what you are, because they're operating off of certain categories and certain things. They can't really fully put the investment into knowing you in a super unique fashion, but you have to really know who you are and stay true to that. And I always think about that when choosing what to do, or, you know, how I want to move forward and what I listen to and what I don't. And that always, I've found that to be true, is people will take every opportunity to try to, you know, mold you into what they think you should be.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think the most important thing you can do in life in general, but especially in our industry, is have a very strong sense of self and knowing who you are and what you believe in before you come into this industry, because like you said, it will tell you who you are if you don't come into it. And we all want this so bad as well, that like, if you don't have that strong sense of self, you will bend every which way to everyone around you. So I love that.
Yeah.
And also, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So I think having a small circle is really important too.
I like that. I actually haven't heard that.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for actors out there who want to book these verticals?
Just, I would say it would be like anything else. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. In the beginning, with the first audition that I did for a vertical last spring, I saw it and I was like, okay, on a casting site, and I was like, I'm going to submit and see what happens and commit to it. And I didn't hear anything. And then a friend of mine from acting class happened to share with me an Instagram post from the producer of the show. And they were like, hey, we're looking for this Alf Alexander character. We basically can't find him. And I was like, oh, I actually submitted for that. I guess they didn't like it. And I was like, but you know what? Whatever. I'll message the producer. And so I shot her a message. I was like, hey, you know, I did submit for this, just, you know, following up. And she was like, oh, great. We saw your resume. We basically didn't watch it. I was like, but we're going to go back and watch it. And I had the role within the day.
Wow.
So that was the power of the having like an actor community in LA, whether that's through class or something else, because without that bump, I wouldn't have got it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to that actress from acting class, Megan. And, you know, I do my best now with ones that come up to refer whoever I can that I know into the space. Because that is a question that I get a lot from producers, is like, hey, do you know any actresses that you recommend? And I do my best to pay it forward and throw names into the ring and things like that. But I think it's like anything else. You just have to, you know, seek it out and then commit and just keep putting yourself out there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that they didn't even watch your tape and you reached out. I think too, that's a good point, and something for actors out there to learn is that like you have to fight for yourself sometimes too. So I think that is really good that you reached out, and again, really good that you have that community around you too. But sometimes it does take that extra step of fighting for yourself to book something.
Yeah. Yeah. That was huge. I mean, I couldn't have known at the time what that show would do, but
yeah,
that's the thing about acting, is there's no formula, and that's the beautiful thing and the frustrating thing about it. And I remember I read Cary Grant's, not autobiography, but a biography. And one of the quotes he had in there was, once you understand acting in Hollywood is all a fairy tale, it makes it much easier to accept, because you know that success, failure, all these things, no one actually knows what they're doing. It's luck, preparation, timing, all these things.
right. We're all just acting like actors. We're all just acting like we know what we're doing in this business. There are no rules.
Yeah. Anyone that's like,
So
oh yeah, I
true.
got here because of this and this is how you do it, I call it BS, because there's no one knows. I can't predict the future with that.
No, I love that. I even think in relation to these verticals, sometimes what I hear people say is like, well, I don't want to get stuck doing like soap operas like some people and things like that. And I'm like, but everybody's path is so different. And like, just because that might have happened to this person or that person doesn't mean that that always happens. And I just think,
I mean,
so
to that question, I would say, oh, okay. Brad Pitt started on soaps. A lot of people started on soaps. Demi Moore started on soaps. You go back to the 90s. To me, this is no different than that. is just a new way of being discovered. 100%. These are just new age soaps.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been on a soap in the early 90s. A lot of people were. That was how you got in.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. You have to evolve as our industry evolves. And I think some people, even people high in our industry, like a lot of acting coaches or managers who have been in it for a long time, I feel like don't evolve as the industry evolves, and realizing that as these changes happen, you have to adapt to them or you're not going to work. And so like you're right, these are kind of our modern soap operas. I think too, people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. And like, especially people outside of our industry, I feel like I hear my friends sometimes that are like, I don't want to watch a 40-minute show, but will they watch 30-second shows on their phones, 30-second episodes?
Yeah. I go back and forth with that because on the one hand, like what we're doing now, podcasts are such a huge thing. They're an hour, 2 hours. I find myself listening to entire episodes.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's on my terms. So I'll do 20 here, 20 there. Sometimes I'll listen to the whole thing, but usually I'm doing other things as it's happening.
Yeah, same.
So I think just the option of knowing I can break this up if I want to, but if I'm loving it, I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know people that will sit down and they'll just watch a vertical like a movie. And they'll just hammer through all 70 episodes.
Yeah.
So I think the attention span is short if you're not engaged, but if you're engaged in it, it's like anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they definitely are feature-length scripts. What's the longest script you've done? Just out of curiosity.
120 pages.
120, okay.
Yeah.
That was the longest I'd heard of, but I just worked with a guy on set who said they did 150 pages. It's like, oh.
Yeah. I know of people who've done 180.
Wow.
So, when you...
That's wild.
I know these are referred to as shows, but I find myself referring to them more and more as movies.
Yeah.
They're just broken up into increments, but they're 80, 90, 100 minutes.
Yeah.
They're movies.
And it feels like a feature too, the sets, like a 9-10 day feature film to me.
Yeah.
It's like when I do one,
And it's written like that.
It is.
Like it's not written as a TV show. So yeah, I'm like, wow. Okay. We just banged out a feature film.
Yeah. How many have you done at this point as well?
By the time this comes out, 18.
18. Okay. By the time this comes out.
By the time this comes out.
18 are live, or like 18 in general?
18. Well, there's 5 that are still yet to come out.
Okay.
And then I'm doing 2 more in the month of June. So yeah, that'll wrap it at 18.
If you are comfortable, could you give us one of the best moments you've ever had on one of these vertical sets and one of the worst moments that you've had? And it could be you or the circumstances or just something like that.
Wow. Yeah. I've definitely had a lot of great moments. To me, I would say, well, every first day is great because the energy of meeting new people, a new set, a new movie, I love that. And wow, all these memories are flooding in now. Because it's honestly been such a blur in 2024.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
In like seeing people that you've seen before and working with them again, that's always a very cool thing.
It is so fun. You realize how small our industry is.
You realize how small it is. And I mean, if anything, it's still surreal when producers or directors are like really excited to meet me and see me and have them be part of their project. That's still like super humbling to me. I think there was one producer on one set that, was just explaining, because I still at that time wasn't really fully understanding of like the global reach of these.
Yeah.
That was like, you have no idea the people that are invested in this in China. Like, if you went on Chinese social media, you would see yourself everywhere. Like it's like super fervent.
What do they do? Dub them? Do you know? Or
I
just do
think they
subtitles?
dub them.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
they dub them because I have seen a few clips. But I think it's just, I love being on set, and the opportunity to do that almost every day is something I'll never take for granted. So I think overall that's the most like exciting thing to me, is just the consistency of being around people and working to put something together. Because, you know, people can say, oh, you know, low budget this, low budget that, critical of this. Making anything is hard, and having a group of people come together and make something and actually complete it and then be able to put it out and have people see it. This is incredible. And I have so much respect for the people who are putting these together and putting the time in and putting the risk in and the money in, because they're creating a lot of opportunities for people. I would say the only, you know, I'll never, you know, really have anything negative to say. The only time I've been any at all stressed is when I have to change wardrobe really fast, multiple times in an hour.
I feel like.
That's the hardest thing. And that's the only thing where I'm like, whew, okay, like I need to take a breath. I can do this. Can I change into this suit in 3 minutes? Can I change into this suit in 3 minutes and then come right in and do the scene? That's
that like brain switch, I feel like, too, of having to get dressed while you kind of think of like, because you shoot so out of order as well. So I can imagine trying to get into
that too.
What just happened, what scene are we doing, where am I?
That too.
While you're changing.
And I think too, going sometimes from wrapping one and then the next morning starting another one. And again, it's not like, oh, this story is like a complete 180, or this character is a complete 180, but I still do my absolute best to bring something new and really understand the character that I'm playing and do my best to bring it to life. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult in terms of the amount of prep I would like to have that isn't present a lot of times.
I can imagine. So speaking of that, could you tell us, if you could prepare for the role, like if you had the time to prepare for it, how would you approach one of these roles? If you just booked one, let's say you have a week.
Yeah, a week. I learned this from someone. I like to read the script 3 times. Once as just a fan, audience member reading it, no investment in it at all. The second time from my character's POV. Okay, now I am this character. Let's go through the script this way. And then the third time, really going into the nitty gritty of reading it super slow, breaking down each plot point, each line. What are other people saying about my character? What am I saying about other people? And then putting together a playlist, like a Spotify playlist that I feel like represents the energy of the story and the character.
I love that.
That's, and that process would take a week at least. So that's the ideal 4-step process that I would like to do, because then I can listen to that playlist driving there, driving home, in between scenes. I find it really valuable, especially for scenes that are more emotional. I do have an emotional playlist that I'll listen to before scenes like that, just to get I find music to be super helpful.
Yeah. No, I know a lot of actors that do that, and I can imagine that's helpful. So let's do the contrary. Let's say you wrapped one up today, you're starting one tomorrow. How do you approach it? Do you start preparing for that while you're on set of your other one? Do you take it day by day? How does that look for you?
Yeah, because usually I'll do the table read for that one during the one that I'm currently doing, like in one of the evenings. That being said, I don't like to do too much prep while I'm doing the one that I'm doing. So it's sort of a catch-22 of, well, I want to prep, but I don't want to take away from what I'm currently doing either. Because in my mind, I feel like that's unfair to them to be doing that. So sometimes it is day by day. Sometimes it's day by day. I will have always gone through the script, but sometimes and I think most actors in that world now think this way. You don't go in being like, I have everything memorized, because you just won't. Nor should you really.
Yeah. It's the same thing for a show. Like, they're not memorizing the entire show. You know, they're taking it day by day.
Yeah. So I've talked with some people on set, and it's like, okay, we'll be like 80 to 90% there. We'll go through rehearsal. Okay, now we're at 95, and then for the take, we're at 100. The good thing about the verticals is, with the episodes being shorter, it's rare that you have a super long exchange where you don't get like a few minutes while they're resetting up the lights to go through. So I've never felt stressed about that. And I also eat 10 blueberries a day, which is powerful for memory.
All right. Life hack there, guys. The blueberries.
Yeah. If you never want to forget a line, 10 blueberries a day.
Do you still audition for these verticals ever these days, or no?
I don't know.
Okay. Can I ask when you stopped auditioning for them, just out of curiosity?
I stopped auditioning in early December of 2023.
Oh, okay.
So the first 3 that I did tape for. And then at that point, I was like, let's test what happens here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, offer only, and the first production went with it. Second one did. I was like, great. This is what we're doing now.
You have so much material as well that I feel like if they want to know what you can do, you can be like, okay, this year you can watch this one, this one, this one. Like, it's not like they're going into it not knowing your abilities. So
for sure. Yeah. And at this point, I did have someone who's a big fan. They were very gracious, and they put together an entire vertical reel based on the shows that I've done. And they were like, these are the best scenes. We're going to put this together for you. And so now I have like a 2-minute reel.
Just like a fan, like somebody who watches your stuff. Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, it was super sweet. Yeah, she's the best. And so now when people reach out, if there's any, like, if I sense any sort of like caution, or they're unsure, or maybe they don't know me, I'll send them that.
Yeah.
And be like, we'll meet here. And I always also offer to meet with the director and talk about the script, because I don't expect everyone to be like, oh, like,
of course,
I be like, yeah, I'll meet with the director. Let's talk. If we want to go through a few scenes, great. But I don't think it's necessary for me to send in a tape, because that would be more perfunctory than anything.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm curious then, are you auditioning for other stuff outside of these verticals, and or do you even have time to do so?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say is I mean, I could make the time, but truthfully, no, I'm not. No, I haven't. I haven't been on a casting site since December.
Okay.
It's and that's on purpose, because so after the Fated to Forbidden Alpha last summer, after that went viral and I saw the response to that around the world, I was like, oh, this isn't normal.
That's the chicken tender one. Can I interrupt you? Is that what
Yeah.
it was, your like viral thing? Okay, Connor, can you insert that clip right now? Connor's my editor anyway, so they know what we're talking about.
That's the fried chicken.
So good when Tiffany took some home, but they never let me try it. I always wondered what it tasted like.
You've never had fried chicken? Give me a sec. Beta, cancel it all. Yeah, the caviar too. We're not doing sushi anymore. Yes, I'm sure. Give me a bucket of fried chicken. Fried chicken. Make sure it's hot.
With you, the sun is shining 24/7. 'Cause when we're together, it feels like we're in heaven. If it will get dark, you'll be my million stars. I know I can lean on you. Oh, you catch me like a leaf falling from a tree. If I'll be a shooting star, you make a wish. No, I don't think
Is it everything you've ever dreamed of?
that's all real. My heart is on the table.
Holy shit.
My everything I do.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's just, I'm in heaven.
When you're around, I know it's true.
I can't believe they let you live like that.
Yeah.
And I, coming from fitness, coming from the business world, I was like, oh, I got to get on this, because this is something that you don't see too many things where you can hop on a trend early, not be the very first one, because Real Short and all these companies in China already took the risk. They proved the model there.
Mm-hmm.
We're now benefiting from that. But I have the opportunity in the US to ride this wave of being one of the first viral verticals and go all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I marketed it, I pushed it, I interacted with every single person who reached out to me, and I went all in on it.
Yeah.
And
it's been good.
It's been good.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, again, just because I think in terms of business, like the opportunity to own a niche, that's the value. If someone can say, oh, Kasey, he's the vertical guy, versus Kasey ...
Right.
We don't know what he is.
Yeah.
Because now I can, being that, I can now platform that out anywhere, and people will resonate and they'll get it, because perception is everything. And my goal is to be a leading man in movies, and this is just proving that on a more micro level.
No, I love that. I think too what you spoke to, Kasey, and I think that this is a big part of your success that a lot of actors do lack, is that business mindset. I think a lot of, and this too, I work with people that are so talented, but don't know how to market themselves or don't have the business side of things. And you can be the most talented person in the world, but if nobody knows it, it's one of those things. So it is really important to focus on that. And I also think too, our time and our focus is so important. So I think that pouring your energy and going all in on one thing is so smart, as opposed to trying to do a million things like a lot of actors do.
Yeah.
Because all of your energy is on this thing. And like you said, you're known for that, but also they might think of you for the verticals, but then they watch it and they're like, oh, he's really good at drama. He's a really dramatic actor, and who knows where that could lead into. So
Exactly.
That.
It's like in fitness, with the gym world, it was like, okay, we specialize in glute training, but that doesn't mean we also can't do all these other things.
Yeah.
It just means we specialize in that.
Right.
So again, it's having a niche is just, I found to be the most valuable thing in the world.
Yeah. You see it with a lot of big actors too, even focusing on their type at first, or whatever they're typecast as, taking that and running with that, because it's a similar thing.
Exactly. I mean, it's I think of it no different than, let's say someone like Matthew McConaughey doing the rom-coms and everything. That was his thing. And his earning power in that space was huge, but he wanted to expand out, and he could, because he had that following and platform to be able to do so. No different than Adam Sandler doing all these comedies and being like, well, now I have the power to do drama, and people will watch it, and I can do it. But if after one comedy success, he was like, I want to do drama, people are like, well, not yet. So to me, it's just going to set up so many other opportunities in the future.
Yeah, I also think too, it's going to bring an element of intrigue, especially the people that already watch you and love you doing these verticals. If you do some comedic movie or something like that, people are going to be like, what? Casey's doing something comedic?
Yeah, exactly.
Alpha Alexander? For real?
I know. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Rolling Stone article, but the thing that I was most excited about reading that was that it was in the subculture section. And that to me was there's a certain sort of rebellious nature that I feel with these, that whenever I hear someone speaking negative or whatever, that's exciting to me, because anything that's new and that's going to continue to get bigger will face a lot of resistance in the beginning. It's just a fact. People thought, oh, what's TikTok? This is ridiculous. There's already Instagram, or, what's the internet when it came out?
Yeah.
It's no different. There will be resistance, and then eventually it will wear people down, and they'll accept it.
You've touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk some business things with you.
Yeah.
So In terms of, can you tell us a little bit of your background with the whole fitness thing, like when you opened your first gym, how you fell into that world even prior to acting? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I'm from Indiana.
Okay.
And I went to, I'm from Indiana, but I grew up in St. Louis. And then I went to college at the University of Evansville in Indiana. And my role model in life, not for personal life, but professional life, is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And watching him, I was like, oh, okay. So you can have multiple careers. You can do, I don't have the genetics to be Mr. Olympia, but I could still do fitness and then do acting. Like that to me was a path that was trailblazed by him. And he mentions having his idols who also showed him that path that people don't really know from like the 1950s and 60s. But, seeing that, I was like, wow, that's a super cool life. I want to do that.
So from a young age, sorry to interrupt, but from a young age, did you realize you wanted to act even before 2021? It was like
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, this was something that, I'm going to get the home video transcribed and I'll post it. But my dad said when he would have the home, this will date me, but the home video camera running, like I would run up and yell into the camera that I was going to be a famous actor. And that was like 5, 6.
Yeah.
And the first movie that I ever actually sat through in theaters was True Lies with Arnold. And that was the first one that I didn't kick and scream my way out of. And I think from that moment was when I was like, okay, I am going to do that. That's in my heart. But I want to do what he did, where he established himself in a different area first. And I discovered weight training. I saw the amount of confidence it gave me because I was really painfully shy before that point in high school.
Wow.
And finding that really changed me. And I was like, well, I want to do this for other people and give them that confidence as a trainer. And I was like, well, I love personal training. This will be what I do for my first life. I came to LA on a family vacation because my parents actually used to live in Orange County. So they like going back to California. And I came out here and I was like, well, this is where I should be. This is ridiculous. Why am I in St. Louis? No disrespect to St. Louis. It's great. But to me, as soon as I got to LA, I was like, this is home.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I don't know if that was freshman year of high school or what, but I was like, okay, moving to LA. I don't know when, but we're going to move there. We're going to open a personal training studio. I'm going to work with all these celebrities and have my thing. And yeah, so after graduating, I worked at a personal training studio in Ohio for a year, built up some cred. And then, I basically took a chance on applying to Equinox, and they called and they were like, hey, great resume. If you can move out here, you can do it. Of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, great. They're going to have clients set up for me. This is going to be fantastic. I'm just going to be, this all-star trainer. And I get there and they're like, okay, you're going to be working on the floor and you have to get the clients. And, I was like, okay, great. But looking back, I was like, that was actually insane because there was no guaranteed business. And so I just worked out on the floor every day, talking to members and, developing my own thing of selling myself. And that's kind of where I learned to do that. And, one client starts, another client starts, and then, the ball gets rolling. But yeah, I basically built my clientele there, worked there for 2 years because I knew opening a studio was the goal.
Okay.
Went into in-home training and had a few clients while I looked for a space. And then after looking at a ton of spaces, found the one in Culver City. And, I'll reshare some photos of what it looked like at the start, but it was a complete mess. But I had a few people that were loyal and committed, and they started, and, it went from there. And we partially rode the growth of Culver because this was in 2015.
Okay.
So it was a little bit ago. And, now it's been 9 years and just opened in Burbank last August. So it's, but to answer your question, once the business was established enough, because then the pandemic hit and, we all had more time to think. And I was like, okay, if I don't do this now, it's like, what am I waiting for? Because when I was doing personal training, and I'm like this for better or worse, very single-minded. So all of my focus was in that. I never once thought about acting. Trained actors, never even asked them any questions about it. It wasn't even a thought. Because I can compartmentalize in probably a dangerous way. And so I was so focused on personal training. And then during the pandemic, I allowed myself time to think. I had gone through a divorce and I was like, okay, this is my first time ever being alone. And, now I had time to really reflect on that. And I was like, okay, we're going into acting on my birthday in 2021 and started class with Annie Grinley and haven't looked back since. But if I hadn't had the stability and the backing from the fitness business, because now great people are running it and working it, I wouldn't have had the same type of opportunity to immerse myself. Because the thing that I respected about Arnold was he was like, okay, not that I'm like super rich, but he was like, okay, I'm going to make a little bit of money first. And then when I go into acting, I'll be able to sort of direct my career in a really aggressive way and be able to say no, because I'm not so concerned about or super stressed financially. So that was my mindset behind that. So when they got to that point, I was like, okay, now we can go into this and we can rock and roll.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I do think that is so smart to, I think sometimes people have like regrets when they do something else before acting. I speak with some actors that are like, oh, I was doing this throughout my 20s and da-da-da-da. But like everything always works out as it's meant to. And life experience makes you a better actor as well. So I'm sure like all of your time training in the gym, like you were saying, it taught you all of these business principles. Who knows where you would be without that?
Well, I think the other thing too is I face so much rejection from both looking for spaces in LA and then also selling the gym. So when it came time to get rejected for so many auditions, it didn't really faze me as much. Because to me, it was like, okay, every no is just a necessary part to get to the yes. Not saying that it was like a breeze, like I'm still super competitive, but I was more battle hardened in that way, of hearing no when you put your heart and soul into something. Because I started the gym and then would meet with people and they would say no, it was like a personal affront, right? Because I wasn't representing a huge corporation like I was with Equinox. This was my thing. And I'm like, well, you're not going to find any better than this, is what I'm thinking. And that's how I think now in auditions, which is positive.
Yeah. What is harder, the acting industry or starting a business?
They're both insane. Part of the reason that I went into acting, the reason that I went into fitness was it was so far outside of my comfort zone. Like being a personal trainer was the exact opposite of who I was at the time, but I wanted to be like them. So I became one. And acting to me was the next challenge. Like, what could I find that is harder than entrepreneurship, brick and mortar, business ownership, acting? Because with business, there's a formula that you can mostly follow and it will likely work. You just have to be willing to put the time and effort in and all these things.
Which a lot of people are not. So
Which a lot of
commend you
people-
for that.
which a lot of people are not.
Starting and don't stick with anything. So they never see
Yeah.
any success or any fruit from it. But
Yeah. With business, it's more, can you weather the debt initially? And that's a big part. But yes, thank you. It also is not a guaranteed thing, but it's, you know, with acting, like we were talking about earlier, it's even more chaotic. There's
no
you know, there's so many ways that you can break through in acting or not break through. And it's, you know, you can go to acting school, but you know, there are so many business books and schools and programs that, okay, if I do this, if I follow these models, I'm going to give myself a chance. With acting, you really don't know. You really don't know. And it's much more difficult to gauge. So I would say acting is harder. Yeah, I would say acting is harder, but I'm loving that because when I went into it, it was an opportunity to start at the bottom of something again. Because the most fun I had with business and with Essers was getting it to the point of opening. There are a ton of perks to having it, but it's the most fun that I had was getting it to a successful point. And that's what I'm enjoying now about acting is like clawing up.
yeah, the beauty's in the journey. You always hear those stories of people where they're
Yeah.
like, winning the Oscar was like the loneliest day of my life or things like that, because the beauty really is in the everyday and making the most of that.
Yeah, and I used to hear those quotes and be like, that is ridiculous.
I know. Sucks for you.
But it's but I get it. I get it because you work so hard for so long for something and then it actually happens and it's super fulfilling. But then, you know, usually the mindsets that go into business or acting, your mind goes to what's next?
Yeah.
What's the next thing?
Yeah.
It's hard to feel satisfied. At least I don't.
Yeah, well, that's like human beings in general. We're made to like solve problems. We're made for survival and things like that. So we're always looking for the next thing, the next problem to solve, the next thing to pour ourselves into.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even with the vertical world, I really work hard to seize every opportunity still, because in my mind, if I'm not on set doing something, there's something wrong. And so I just I have a really hard time saying no at this point.
Yeah.
A really hard time saying no.
Can I ask you, in terms of the gyms you own, did you mention selling one, or do you still technically own both the Essers, one in Culver City and in Burbank?
Yeah.
So you own
I do.
and are you pretty involved in both, or like how does that? I'm just curious because with these crazy verticals, how are you even dealing with those gyms at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that I struggle with every day. I'd say it's the biggest stressor in my life now is I feel like I could be doing so, like, it's fine. It runs, it does well, but to what I was saying earlier, I like to be all in on something. And it's really, really hard for me not to be able to be all in on Essers currently, because the goal is still to grow it, to franchise it eventually, and to use the notoriety from acting to get people excited to buy a franchise and have that synchronicity amongst the two, because they can build off of each other. But at the same time, I did not anticipate or was prepared for the amount of energy that would have to go into acting. And I'm still figuring that out, to be honest. And I'm not doing the best job of it currently. So fortunately, there are really good people who really believe in it that work there. I'll shout out Sanam, Juan, MacD, Jimmy. They're incredible. And, you know, I want to continue to be the best leader that I can for them. And at the same time, be a leader on all of these sets day after day. And I haven't figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't figured that out.
Yeah, that's hard. I think too in life, we're always trying to find like life balance. But similar to you, I always tell people, and not to give you hope or anything, but I'm like, I don't know that balance necessarily exists in life, because I do feel like you almost have to pick stuff to focus on in certain seasons of life.
Yeah.
And right now for you, it might be acting, but that's so cool though that you have a good team and you do have people that are managing it, and it's still, up and going even without you. But
Yeah. No, I'm super, super grateful for that. It's, it's definitely still my baby. So,
No, I'm sure.
It's,
Yeah.
but it's different. I didn't anticipate what it would feel like to not be as involved when I was like right there,
Yeah.
every day. So it feels different. And it's got me, rethinking kind of how I want to approach that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I bring on a partner? Because I was really big on, I'm keeping 100% of this for as long as humanly possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I don't know. Like, is it something that I'm holding on to 100% of for me? Is that like the best for the business?
Yeah.
Or would it be best for the business to give up part of it and to see someone be able to really go in and like grow it at the level that I would want to grow it at?
Right. And maybe help you to build out those franchises and things like that while you're still focusing on acting.
To really take that. So I'll make a little bit more from acting and then see.
That's true too. Like, yeah, I mean, you are making money off of acting, so that could help you in the long term too, to have that extra capital to then pay somebody else to kind of help you out or outsource more, things like that.
Definitely.
And like you said too, the two can totally go in handy. Like, who knows, as you keep getting bigger in this vertical world, you'll have people wanting to sign up for your gyms. You might have to open a third one or whatever. So
I mean, what's interesting is that is a lot of the outreach that I get is a demand for an Esser's like online program.
Yeah.
So, of course, then I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is amazing. And then I shoot something for 10 days and then I'm...
No, of course. And like actually building that out though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a really cool... I have some friends in the online training space too, and that can be a good, an app or whatever where you just record some workout videos.
Huge.
Yeah.
No, I believe in it so much. It's just that feeling of like, yes. And then
but when, yeah, exactly. I know that's a great idea if I had.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And I want to do this so bad. But that's life. You have to prioritize certain things and you can't do everything all at once.
True,
like I was, before the vertical started to really pick up, the main thing I was doing was actually writing every day. And I also miss that a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Cause I'm not I have to go to bed by like 9 or 10. I'm not the person staying up till 2 a.m. and then going to set at 6. Those people
I'm
are
not
built
that
different.
Person either. I know. I did notice. I will tell you. He answered my DM at like 5:13 a.m. the other day, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Oh yeah.
Either he doesn't sleep, or he's one of the 5 a.m.
I'm awake. I'm awake. Yeah, people do laugh at that. Yeah. I remember I met a woman, and then I got her number, and then I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna send her a voice note. And it was like 5:30. Nice. And she was like, "Are you nuts?" She liked it though.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
But I was like, "That's
just for you.
That's when I'm awake, and that's the time slot that I have." Mm-hmm. So, whatever.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, we are starting to come to a close here, but I am curious, Kasey, before... My last segment's always fast for Ski 5, but before that, It'll be 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Before that, what is one thing you wish you knew before you started acting?
Well, actually, to rebut that, there isn't anything that I wish that I knew, because I think the more that you know before you go into something, the less likely you will actually do it. So if someone, for example, had said, "Hey, with the gym, you're going to need this much money, you're going to need this, all of these things," I would have been like, Ooh, now I'm a little bit more nervous. So actually, I think the ignorance is a blessing.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. And trusting the journey.
Yeah. Knowing as much as you need, and that's it.
Yeah. I moved out to LA when I was 18 for acting. And I remember people would like laugh at me, some of my friends that were older, like, oh, she's so bright and doe-eyed and all of these things. And I'm so glad that I was, because I almost think if you approach the acting industry, you almost need to have that. You need to have the mindset that like, this is all going to work out for you. You could be a big star, like all of these things, because
Yes.
that kind of keeps you going and
Yes.
not having the realistic perception of it or whatever. I think that can stop you before you even start. Because obviously those things can't happen if you don't go for it. So
Yeah.
sometimes that ignorance is bliss.
No, that's so true. Like I was like, okay, I know I need to go to class. That's it.
Right.
I know I need to
step
watch
one.
as many movies as possible.
Yeah.
That's it. Mm-hmm. We'll focus on that.
Yep. Okay, are you ready for a fast, frisky five? It's
I'm
5 rapid
ready.
fire,
I'm
5
ready.
random rapid
I know
fire
I'm giving
questions.
detailed answers, but I'll try to keep it tight.
It's never actually rapid. The first one is your favorite quote, which you kind of gave us some at the beginning, but if you have something different.
Well, the not to plug my own business, but the slogan is dominate. So to me, I've always, that's not a quote, but it is also a quote actually,
Yeah,
but it's dominate. That's what I think about when I wake up, when I am doing anything. To me, it just condenses everything down, and it's simple. Just whatever you're doing, dominate it.
No, I love that. Yeah, it's simple. What is something in LA that you love that not a lot of people know about?
One of my, well, I would say, people may know about this, but one of my favorite places to go is the Beverly Hills Library. And that's where I like to, if I'm doing any serious prep for something, that's where I will go. It's a beautiful library, number one, but I also just enjoy libraries. So it's famous because it's like loosely in Beverly Hills Cop, I guess, but it's 2 hours free parking, and there's a bathroom, little things you don't think about in LA.
No, truly, yeah.
Like actually, I had a meeting nearby that place this morning, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and I was like, oh, I can go and park in the garage in the library, and then I can go.
That is so LA though. Like nobody lets you pee anywhere.
No one lets you pee
have to,
anywhere.
I have a list of like bathroom codes on my phone for like various Targets and things like that. Yeah, because they like lock you out, and there are times where I'm like,
That's incredible.
I should
Yes,
sell that.
Targets are key.
What is your favorite line in a movie or TV show?
I'm gonna pull from. There's two, and I actually watched both these movies again recently. Both True Lies, which I already mentioned, and one of my other favorite ones is Air Force One, because one of the directors that I really wanted to work with before he passed is Wolfgang Peterson, and Harrison Ford saying "Get off my plane" in Air Force One, that always hits. Also, another favorite that Wolfgang Peterson directed is Troy, and when Achilles is riding his horse and the kid's like, where are you going? It's like, he's like, I'm going to fight or something, blah, blah. The kid has some retort, and Achilles goes, and that's why no one will remember your name. He just rides off. The urge to say that so many times in my own life.
Right, I know.
Whenever people have some sort of objection to something is great. So yeah, those are the top two that come to mind.
Love that. Pickles, yay or nay?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, fast answer. Recent obsession of yours?
Well, it's seasonal, but Love is Blind. Whenever that's out, that becomes an obsession for that period of time.
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. I definitely used to be, well, I missed this last season, but actually no, it's coming up. Okay. I'm obsessed with Bachelor in Paradise.
Oh.
Yeah. So in August, that'll be back.
Have you ever considered applying, Kasey? I feel like people would love to see you on The Bachelor.
No, I haven't. I haven't, but it's a full blown. I actually used to, the first famous thing that I did was I used to live tweet The Bachelor.
Oh, you were into it, man.
I was really into it. And I happened to tweet, this was in JoJo's season, which will also date me, but I made a tweet about one of the contestants that went super viral, and BuzzFeed included it on their list of like top tweets. And one of the guys who trains at the gym, one of his coworkers came up and was like, "Hey, I think your trainer's in this BuzzFeed article about The Bachelor." He's like, "No, there's no way." And he's like, no, he's deadlifting in his profile picture. They're like, "Oh, that's him." It was so funny. It was so good. But yeah, The Bachelor in Paradise, I'm obsessed with.
All right, I love that. Any last piece of advice for our Acting Like an Actor viewers?
I mean, I'm still overall pretty new, but I think the thing that I've learned so far overall is, if you want to be successful at anything, you just have to put the reps in. It's like no different than training. It's, you do your first set of squats. Okay, that hurt a little bit. Okay, well, now you got to do a second, then a third, and then, okay, that's done for the day. Your body's not going to change a ton, but you go back, the next day or 2 days later, you do it again, go back another day, do it again. And then you see a little change here, a little change there. And it's true. It all adds up. Every class that you take, every person that you meet, it's all building, even if it seems invisible at first.
Yeah.
Because I was in class for 2 years, and literally really nothing happened outside of that.
Yeah.
But you have to have those like little victories in your mind and record those of like, oh, the teacher said I did good with that scene, or like, just like little things that you sort of go off of, that you just have to convince yourself and tell yourself that these are building on each other, and it's building in a great way. And, ultimately you have to like be in the arena and play the game. Like nothing's really going to happen on your couch, not interacting with anyone. You gotta get out there, and you gotta be willing to fail.
Yeah. No, I love that. All right. Get out there and stick with it, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.